As part of our Black History Month celebrations, working with the communities in Ashford and Maidstone, we organised a special roundtable to discuss the impact, for example, of COVID-19, Black Lives Matter, and also the importance of celebrating Black History Month. This recording was done in September 2020 in the build-up to our Black History Month celebrations. Maria, what does Black History Month mean to you?
Black History Month means honoring the prominent figures of our past and also focusing on present day heroes. And it allows us to promote and reveal the Black men and women who are becoming new examples of Black excellence.
I think Black History Month is, like Maria has said, it's a commitment to equality and making sure that we all know our past, our present and our future, about representation as well. When I was younger, I think Black History Month served as you don't have to exist as a one-dimensional Black character that the rest of the world may see you as. Black people are pilots, Black people are inventors, Black people are not just rappers and athletes, like we're more than that.
Fenny, what about to yourself? What does Black History Month mean to you?
I personally think it's the right steps forward, but of course it's not the only step, and there's more that needs to be done, especially in integrating it in work environments, school environments, places like that, because it's not enough, as we all know, just having a month of maybe learning about the history of Black people. It's usually, well, it was mostly about the slave trade, but it's expanded and we're more celebrating rather than just kind of being forever being reminded of the negatives, which is something that I dreaded at school when it came to like learning of the slave trade, because it's like everyone would just look at you as we're always most of the time the minority in the class, especially in Ashford. Everyone's looking at you, and then the students might ask a teacher questions that the teacher doesn't know how to answer, like demeaning stuff.
What more could be schools, employers be doing, not just in Black History Month, but day to day, so that they can understand more about the struggles and the challenges that still exist here today in 2020, be it the UK, be it in Kent, if you're from a Black background?
I'll give an example with the work that we are doing as a charity in Ashford BME Association. So we are currently working with schools, with the head teachers. They have recognized that there's a need there and they want to do more. So it's good. It's a good starting point when you see that people are willing, to learn, that awareness that some of my members have been saying on this platform. So we've been working with the head teachers on how they can build this throughout the whole school curriculum throughout the year. So I feel that, that's something that we're working on and encouraging that continuity of the work throughout the year, not just in Black History Month. And it's also about raising an awareness with their teachers as well. So that we are working with teachers, training them and seeing how they conduct on what they say. Because we believe with young people, they're like sponges. They listen to anything and they take it in.
I think more effort should be put on adults than the kids. Kids are very easy to integrate. They assimilate, very easily. But the adults have got preconceived ideas that we need to try and change. And I think a lot of that comes through ignorance. And people tend to be afraid of what they don't know. And as long as you tell them that, well, every Black man is not a threat, contrary to the stereotypes, they will start to accept Black people more.
So for me as well, it's the onuses, I think, has to start from the top. It's like a vice versa thing. So yes, the kids need to be taught at a young age, but it can only be implemented by people at the top, right? Changing school curriculums, things like that, because even just something as simple as having diversity at work, if students are seeing more Black teachers, if more Black teachers are actually teaching these subjects, even just at workplaces, the Premier League football right now, there isn't no Black manager who manages a top club. I think it starts at the top. People need to diversify. They need to it's not just have Black people in places of power for the sake of it. Of course, they have to have the skills, but invest in them so they can have the skills. Because a lot of this thing is, oh, they don't have the skills, so that's it. We tried, we gave 2 or 3 an interview, none of them are as good. That's it. And so we tried. Whereas you must try harder to actually give them the skills. So then the more you see these things, the more I have. When I was first in Ashford, I had like young white kids looking at me, asking me questions. I don't blame them. You know, like, why are you that color? You know, like they've never seen a black person before. When we first come to Ashford, there was hardly anyone. It was me, my cousin Dion, and a few others, family members. And like, just thinking about it now, thinking, you know what, that's actually crazy. Because they never see black people on TV. None of the teachers, no one, they don't see black anything. Whenever they see a black person, it's always something negative. So we need to start diversifying, like literally by force. Yeah, diversifying everything. That's the only way people are going to see more of themselves, and they'll feel, if you see someone doing great who looks like you, yeah, you can think, oh, I can do it too.
Like I always say, even to young people, start going to vote, register to vote, vote for something that appeals to you as a black person, because a lot of my people, especially I'm from Zimbabwe, they'll tell you, oh no, I don't go voting because I hate Labour, I hate the Conservatives. They'll tell you everything they hate about every party, but they'll never tell you what's great about the policies that a party is offering. And this is what I believe as black people we need to start to learn, teach our children how important it is to vote, how important it is to run your own thing, how important it is to empower yourself.
So obviously, look, we've had COVID-19, and on top of that, so COVID-19, you know, all communities were kind of facing, but on top of that, we've had the kind of the emergence of the Black Lives Matter movement. You know, we had the horrific killing of George Floyd in America. So how has that impacted on yourselves? I mean, Fenny, how did you feel when you saw, you know, the footage and the news around George Floyd's death?
You know what? I couldn't believe it. Yeah, but at the same time, it's a mixture of feelings. I couldn't believe it, but it's like it's nothing new, because I'd seen a lot of these images that weren't put on the news, you know, circulating on YouTube, or even friends I have in America sending me things like that, saying, look what's happening here, man. I'm like, no way. So it wasn't nothing new. It was just a shock, but it still hurts and it still feels the same, because, you know, it's still a human being being killed in a horrendous, barbaric way. So for me, it's nothing new, but I couldn't believe it. It's difficult, like how you can have them mixed emotions like that. And I was just more disappointed. The thought of knowing that if I was there, that could have been me. If my dad was there, if my cousin was there, if my friend was there, it could have been them, literally for no reason, no good reason anyway. There's never a good reason for that, but it could have been me. So that thought is just, it's so deflating, because you think you're getting somewhere and boom, it's just like pops, deflates again. You're thinking, is this ever gonna end? Is it ever gonna end? So yeah, I've got more to elaborate on this later on, but yeah, that's how I initially felt.
So anyone else want to contribute? Stan, anything to say around that?
Yes, I was quite devastated seeing that thing of George Floyd, and just like Fenny said, it was a lot of mixed emotions. But also with the rise of Black Lives Matter, me personally, a couple of years ago, me and 2 of my other co-workers, good friends of mine, we were all black. We had a similar situation. One of the managers at work, you know, they were proper racist to us. Like, this was recorded on a 15-minute video, 15 minutes on a video, and he's talking all this racial abuse, calling us names, all kinds of black this, black that, and things like that. And the way the company dealt with the situation was quite fair and it was quite good. And I remember also, like, 2 of my other co-workers, they ended up getting money about it, and the company was talking about giving us some type of compensation money and things like that, you know. But I wanted more to be done about that issue, because in that industry, I work in the railway industry, there's a lot of racism that goes on, a lot of racism. And I wanted something to be done about it. It was more than just giving me a little bit of compensation money or even anything like that, you know. So I remember talking about it even with some of my friends and families and things like that. And it was just like, you know, get some money or do this, do that. So for me, when I saw the whole Black Lives Matter, people protesting for that, I was quite, can I say, almost like liberated. I felt like, you know what, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I was glad to see that happen. It's been like an, can I say, something we should have been doing and done long time ago, together, you know, as like, you know, as people together fighting over that whole racism situation, because that goes on everywhere. So yeah, it was sad. It was sad what happened to George Floyd, but what came after that it's almost like, you know, it's a sacrifice for the good sort of thing, you know. So yeah,
I think Black Lives Matter, it wasn't this time around anyway in 2020 an emergence. I think I consider it more of a resurgence, right? I think Black Lives Matter was founded 2013, I think 2012. I think that's at least when I first remember hearing about it. This has been going on, these injustices against Black people, the murders for, like Feni said, there is no good reason, but in a lot of these cases, there is no reason. With the George Floyd incident in particular, it came at such a time when a lot of people were, the world was on pause, right, with COVID. People have had time to process this, I think, in a different way. I think when I say people, I mean non-Black people have had a chance to process this in a different way than usual. I think before these names, as shocking and as devastating as the deaths have been, whether it be Trayvon Martin, like I mentioned, or Sandra Bland, these injustices and the protests that happen and the riots and the speaking up about it, they usually last a week or two, at most a month. But I think with George Floyd, we've seen this, I dare not even say radical, but this movement now that has spread from America across the world.
And I've heard this specifically in Kent, when we raised the issue around Black Lives Matter with people, and people will say to me, it's an American issue, and it's been brought here to the UK. So Dion, what's your response to that when people say it's an American issue and it isn't a UK issue, Black Lives Matter?
When people say things like, oh, it's an American issue, it's not, because racism is experienced by anybody who doesn't, to be quite blunt, anybody who isn't white. I think the sort of archetypal figure of the least oppressed person is, I think, a white, cis, heterosexual male. And I think if you're anything other than that, you will experience some form of oppression, right? When we talk about racism, obviously that's by white people and people of color. And like I've mentioned, I think Black people come usually at the bottom of whatever hierarchy you could maybe try to create. Another thing I think that people like to say about Black Lives Matter is that it's a political issue. It's not, bluntly put. A political issue is Brexit, something like Brexit, something like debating budgets for the NHS. This is a human issue, a social issue, and we all owe that to each other to speak up and do better.
Thank you. Anyone else want to add? Right,
so
I'll start with you first, baby. Then we go to Edwin afterwards, yeah?
The first thing to say, of course, is that clearly this is not an American issue. Many years ago when I studied law, my final project was on Black deaths in police custody. And I was shocked, absolutely shocked by the number of Black people who die in police custody. And it never even hits the papers. And that's just police custody. Let's not even go to mental health institutions. What scared me the most was all these agencies and departments and the press working together on these issues. So for instance, let's say somebody there was a domestic violence incident, let's say that. There's domestic violence incidents and somebody calls the police and the guy involved is a Black guy. So first of all, once the police are told that it's a Black guy, you know that you're gonna have about 10 police cars there. Whereas if it was a white person, one guy would just turn up in a police car. But you're definitely gonna have about 8, 10 police cars because it's a Black guy. So the stereotype is already kicked in. He's black, he's violent. He's black, he's aggressive. He's black, that's already kicked in. Then you'd have a situation where, okay, they would use excessive force because the stereotype has kicked in. And then perhaps he's in the police car and he stopped breathing. The way they will write their notes, oh man, the things that they would say happen in order for it, to justify it. And then the media will get involved. And the media, it was almost like they had a script. So they would describe him physically. He's always 6 foot tall and above. Even if he was 5 foot nothing, he's always 6 foot tall and above, which again sows the seeds in people's mind that because he was 6 foot tall, there was a necessity for there to be 8 police guys on him. So the George Floyd thing, like somebody said, this is not new. This is our experience. And just like somebody said, it's exhausting. It is exhausting. It is in every facet of our life.
In terms of Maidstone and Ashford, Fenny, I know, for example, you've done some work in Ashford around Black Lives Matter.
As you can imagine, when it all first erupted, there was many views. It started off Black Lives Matter, then you had the All Lives Matter side of things. It started to create a division. But I'm very optimistic, and I thought there's no way more people are with this All Lives Matter than the Black Lives Matter. So I thought, you know what, we need to raise awareness. So as a local artist myself, I thought I'm going to write a song about it, because I was thinking having to explain to people, writing on Facebook over and over again, it was difficult trying to argue with everyone, trying to help them see the light. So I thought, let me write a song. I thought, why not? So I started advertising. I thought, whoever wants to come, we'll social distance, whoever wants to come, Black Lives Matter music video to raise awareness is something that will stay for longer. And I've got a decent following in Ashford anyway. So these people, many different people from different backgrounds came, parents, kids, for this video, which ended up kind of being a little protest / video. And since then, the feedback has been phenomenal.
Great. Like what Fenny has just mentioned earlier on, the work that we're trying to do in Ashford is just about raising an awareness, especially we're also trying to do empowerment work, especially with the people of color themselves. Because sometimes you see people, when this Black Lives Matter movement started, I'm not a social media person, but I do go and have a look sometimes. I would see, for example, Fenny would post some things around Black Lives Matter, and then you see people of color as well coming on saying, oh, please don't involve me in this post, I'm good. I felt like as people of color, we should have a voice and we should stand together as one collective, because that way we are powerful in our messages that we give out. And as well, you might be good in your situation, but let's think about our children who are growing up. We need to empower them to stand against this social injustice that they're facing, that we are facing currently. You might feel, oh, my daughter is only 1 year old, but I've got a 6-year-old in her own school. She faced those injustices.
Just following on from that, so look, we live obviously in the county of Kent. Some of you might have been born here, some of you may have moved here from other parts of the country. Some people might, you may have moved from abroad. But how do you look at kind of the community relations in Kent? Do you see them, on the whole, to be positive? Is there a willingness, you feel, for communities to come together to support each other? So what do you think the kind of state of kind of community relations are in Kent?
Historically, I think Kent is an area where it's pretty conservative in its voting. I think having lived in Kent for my whole life, although you might not have right now people using racial slurs that are quite obviously racist, it's racism, I think, is just is part of society, I think, in Kent as well, just as the rest of the country. So much so that although I'm not being called the N-word, for example, when I leave my house, when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about all the ways that I can become less threatening. And I think it's things like that as I navigate throughout Kent. It's maybe getting better, sure, slowly, but maybe surely. But the shackles of racism kind of change. It's no longer maybe 10, 20 years ago, it's no longer, oh, you're this, you're that. It's how people respond to you, how their body works and moves around you, and how they receive you or reject you. And I think as Kent is getting more diverse with the overspill from London, I think it's getting better. There are more people of colour, there are more people that look like me around. And for all the good that representation does, I think that is helping improve things in Kent specifically.